Although the Congress is the lawmaking branch of government, the President has the power to either sign a bill, wait 10 days allowing it to become a law, or veto it to prevent its progress. When Congress passes legislation, a president is given a 10-day window to decide whether to sign it into law or not. If the president vetoes a piece of legislation, Congress has the option to override the veto. This requires a 2/3 vote of both chambers of Congress. If it is near the end of a congressional session, a president can also employ a pocket veto, an action in which a president refuses to sign a bill during the 10-day signing period and simply lets Congress adjourn. The fact that Congress is adjourned means that it cannot vote to override or uphold the veto. Because overriding a presidential veto requires a 2/3 vote, most presidential vetoes are not overridden. For example, during Jimmy Carter's presidency, he vetoed 31 bills, of which only 2 were overridden by Congress. This pattern continued. Only 9 of Ronald Reagan's 78 vetoes were overridden, 1 of George H.W. Bush's, and 2 of Bill Clinton's 37. During the presidencies of George W. Bush and Barack Obama, they only vetoed a handful of bills, most of which were not overridden by Congress. In Article 2 of the Constitution, the President is given an additional significant power. This power is to grant pardons for federal crimes. A pardon allows the President to forgive a person convicted of a crime, removing or ending any punishment, and blocking further prosecution of that person for that crime. In addition, the President has several roles that are not directly described or explicit in the Constitution. For instance, the President is the head of state, the country's highest representative, both at home and abroad. And the President also serves as the head or leader of the government. In countries with a parliamentary system, the head of state and head of government are different people. The head of state could be a monarch, as in the United Kingdom or Sweden, or an elected president, as in Germany or India. The head of government in these instances is the prime minister, chancellor, premier, or some other equivalent title. The president also serves as an economic planner for the country, working with the Council of Economic Advisors and other members of the executive branch to craft economic policy. The policy is implemented in part through the national budget, which the president devises with the assistance of the Office of Management and Budget and the heads of the executive departments. The president also attempts to implement economic policy by proposing legislation and commenting on pending bills to achieve policy and spending goals. Still more, the president serves in some non-governmental roles, including as his or her party's leader and as its principal fundraiser. The president meets with delegations of citizens, members of groups and associations, and national leaders to discuss policy issues or as part of ceremonial events. Presidents can use the office as a bully pulpit, as President Theodore Roosevelt put it, to express their thoughts on issues they believe have national importance. Presidents also use speeches and public appearances to try to comfort or console people suffering in the wake of a natural disaster or major calamity. As the result of several factors, presidential power has steadily grown since the early 20th century. One reason is the president's leading role in the country's foreign policy and the growing U.S. role in the world since World War II. Additionally, the government today is far larger and more involved in more areas of American life than it was in the 1790s and throughout the 19th century. Much of that involvement is carried out by the executive branch, giving the president more power as a result. Because of the singularity of the president versus 535 members of Congress, the media puts more attention on presidential actions than on congressional activity. And that greater focus has resulted in presidents having more influence. The forceful exercise of executive power and domestic policy by Presidents Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson was given more momentum by the response of Franklin D. Roosevelt to the Great Depression in the 1930s. These dynamic presidents did much to expand the roles of the president and the influence of the office. Later in the 20th century, presidents such as Lyndon Johnson and Ronald Reagan also increased presidential power. Due to these changes, the president has a far more expansive role in a government and American life than the framers could have possibly imagined.